We've all seen the video. This is the world's most famous animal attack. Everyone knows it, but almost no one has seen the footage that I'm about to show you now. Some of you might be thinking, what's he talking about? He hasn't played any footage yet. But the fact is, this video needs no introduction. It needs no explanation. You know it in your bones, deep down inside, because you've seen it before. And even if you haven't, these images have been seared into our collective consciousness. It doesn't matter who you are or where you live in the world. We've all seen this video, which means we've all witnessed a miracle. In today's video, I'm going to show you what really happened at the Battle of Kruger. Why did the hippos turn on the crocodiles? Why did the elephants intervene? And how did the poor buffalo survive the ordeal with his life? First, let's take a look at the footage again. This is a young buffalo. He's only about 3 years old and he's trapped. The waterhole is drying up, and without rain in sight, he must escape or die of thirst. But there's a problem. There's an enormous crocodile guarding the crossing point, and it won't let him through. The buffalo tries charging in, but every time he does, he gets yanked back by his tail. If the croc grabs him by the tail like that, he'll flip the buffalo over and drown him in seconds. So the little guy thinks again and decides to try a different tactic. He'll just wait for his chance and then charge in when the croc isn't paying attention. And it works. He manages to get past the croc, who now finds himself in serious trouble. All the other animals are ganging up on him, but believe it or not, he still has a fighting chance. The hippo herd is coming to his rescue. They grab the buffalo by the tail and drag him back to the waterhole so he can get another chance to escape. But the little guy is having second thoughts. Now he looks back at the croc and sees that his friends have come to help. And without hesitation, he turns around and charges straight back into the waterhole. The hippos block his path and use their tusks to pin him down while the elephants arrive on the scene. They also want to get in on the action, and together the hippos and elephants hold the buffalo down until the crocodiles can haul him back out of the waterhole and onto dry land. And finally, the jackals can get in on the feast. And that's the story you've heard 1,000 times before. But I'm going to tell it to you again from the beginning and add some extra details that you've never heard before. A young male buffalo is attempting to cross a shrinking watering hole in the Kruger National Park. As the dry season drags on, the water level continues to drop, and eventually it becomes too shallow for the crocodiles that normally live there. Many of them move away in search of deeper water, but one large specimen refuses to budge. He stays put and grows increasingly territorial as the water level drops further. One day, a young buffalo decides he's had enough of the taste of crocodile. He makes a dash for the water hole, unaware of the danger that lurks within. The crocodile reacts instantly. He opens his jaws wide and clamps his teeth around the buffalo's backside. It's a losing battle from here. The buffalo thrashes around in the shallow water, trying desperately to free himself from the giant reptile's grasp. But the croc is too strong. Soon the buffalo's strength ebbs away, and he begins to tire. The crocodile senses victory and starts to haul his prize ashore. Just as he reaches the bank, though, a herd of hippos intervenes. These massive mammals form a protective circle around the struggling buffalo, preventing the crocodiles from dragging him away. The hippos also start biting and kicking the crocodiles, forcing them to retreat. One of the hippos, a large female known as the matriarch, approaches the buffalo and uses her tusks to pull him upright. With the crocodile threat momentarily neutralized, the buffalo is able to stumble out of the water and run off into the bush. The hippos follow him for a while, but eventually return to their water hole. The buffalo, shaken but alive, disappears into the tall grass. So why did the hippos help the buffalo? Why didn't they let the crocs finish him off? To answer that question, we need to go back to 2007. That was the year of the original Battle of Kruger, an epic three-way battle between hippos, elephants, and crocodiles. The hippos were defending their territory, their mates, and their young against the encroaching crocodiles. And it was a hard-fought battle. The crocodiles eventually won and pushed the hippos out of their territory. But that wasn't the end of the story. The following year, the hippos came back to reclaim their territory, and this time they brought reinforcements. Thousands of them poured into the river system and drove the crocodiles out once again. Ever since then, the hippos have held the upper hand, and the crocodiles know it. That's why, when the hippos intervened during the battle between the buffalo and the crocodile, they knew they could scare the croc away without risking their own lives. Also, the matriarch of the hippopod recognized the young buffalo from the previous year is Battle, and she wanted to make sure he made it out alive. But what about the elephants? Why did they show up and join the fray? Well, they were probably drawn in by all the commotion and decided to see what was going on. After all, there aren't many things that will draw in an elephant like the sound of struggling prey. Once they arrived, they started helping out, and soon everyone was working together to save the buffalo. And I'm not saying that everything went according to plan. The buffalo did survive after all. But the reality is that they probably could have easily killed him if they wanted to. The elephants and hippos could have easily crushed the buffalo, but they didn't. Instead, they seemed almost gentle with him. And that's because they weren't trying to kill him. They were trying to scare the crocodile away. The buffalo was just collateral damage. The reason the buffalo survived was pure luck. The hippos used their tusks to lift him up and away from the crocodile. And if they hadn't done that, he would have drowned. But even as it was, he was still seriously injured. The crocodile had clamped his teeth around the buffalo's backside, and that caused massive internal damage. In fact, the buffalo probably wouldn't have survived for long after being attacked by the crocodile, regardless of whether the hippos and elephants had intervened or not. His wounds would have eventually led to infection and sepsis, and he would have died a slow and painful death. But thanks to the intervention of the hippos and elephants, he managed to make it long enough for the hyenas to finish him off. And that meant that his body would be left relatively intact, which allowed the vultures to move in and start cleaning up. But what about the crocodile? Did he manage to get away? Well, yes, he did. Even though he lost the battle, he was still able to escape with his life. The same couldn't be said for the buffalo, though. His body was quickly stripped clean by the hyenas and vultures, leaving nothing behind but a few scraps of hide and a bloody mess on the ground. And that is why the Battle of Kruger is one of the most talked about events in wildlife history. 4 species clashed in a battle to the death, and only one walked away unscathed. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.